The NBA rumor mill has been relentless, but few whispers have carried the kind of electricity now circling Boston. What started as light speculation about Anthony Simons has quickly evolved into a conversation that feels far more seismic, a negotiation that could reshape the balance of the Eastern Conference. At the center of this storm is Jarrett Allen, a name that may soon be linked to one of the most ambitious front office moves in recent Celtics history. The real intrigue is not just whether Boston can land him, but how such a move would alter the DNA of a team already built to dominate. Front offices rarely tip their hand, yet insiders have noted that Brad Stevens and his group have quietly but persistently positioned themselves for an opportunity exactly like this. The logic goes beyond headlines. Anthony Simons carries undeniable value as a scorer, but his contract north of $27 million has always made him a trade chip rather than a long-term solution. Boston's books are heavy, their tax situation is pressing, and the Simons experiment feels like a bridge to something bigger. That something now appears to be Allen, a player whose impact extends beyond the box score into the very identity of a franchise. Think about what Jarrett Allen represents. A rim protector who averaged close to double-digit rebounds and anchored Cleveland's defense for years, he is the kind of player that turns good teams into nightmares for opponents. Coaches across the league admit privately that Allen forces entire playbooks to be rewritten. Guards hesitate at the rim, offensive sets collapse, and spacing is distorted by his mere presence. Imagine that skill set in green, paired with Boston's already elite perimeter defense. It is not hyperbole to say that such a move could give the Celtics the most impenetrable front court in the league. Skeptics will point to money, but the financial puzzle is not as impossible as it looks. With Simons' contract nearly identical in size to Allen's $20 million+ salary, the outlines of a deal are visible. Sweeteners, fillers, or draft capital may be required, but Boston is not hunting for a short-term bandage. They are calculating a move that secures their long-term foundation. Unlike Denver or Philadelphia, who would have to gut their rosters for a player like Simons, the Celtics stand in unique position. They have a valuable piece other contenders actually want, and they have a glaring positional need Allen solves perfectly. The potential ripple effects are staggering. Analysts argue that Allen's arrival would allow Boston to alter defensive schemes that were already suffocating. Drop coverage becomes more lethal, switch defense gains insurance, and rebounding battles tilt sharply in Green's favor. Opposing coaches would be forced to decide whether to attack the perimeter, where the Celtics boast elite two-way wings, or challenge Allen in the paint, where possessions go to die. It is a lose-lose equation for anyone not wearing a shamrock. Beyond X's and O's lies the cultural piece. Allen is not only a defender, he is a leader by example. Sources close to Cleveland often highlighted his discipline, his quiet work ethic, and his ability to steady younger players in tense moments. That translates directly to a Boston roster that has thrived on accountability and intensity. Insiders believe Allen could become a mentor figure, shaping the mentality of emerging players while fortifying the locker room with a calm but relentless presence. For a franchise that prides itself on culture as much as banners, this is not a small detail. Speculation also stretches to the bigger picture. By landing Allen, Boston would signal to the league that they are not content with one title, that they are building for a dynasty window. Free agents take notice when a team assembles a fortress in the paint and still has scoring firepower across the wings. Agents look at rosters like this and see opportunity for their clients to chase rings while developing on the biggest stage. In that sense, Allen is more than a player. He is a magnet, pulling the next wave of elite talent toward Boston. The conversation is no longer about whether Simons has value on the trade market. It is about whether Boston can leverage him into a move that redefines the team's trajectory for the next 5 years. Fans are already running simulations, picturing Allen erasing shots in the playoffs, shifting matchups against rivals like Milwaukee and New York, and controlling the glass against the very best in the West. Analysts whisper that this deal, if finalized, would mark one of the most transformative front-court acquisitions since Kevin Garnett. The difference is that this time, Boston is not rescuing a franchise from despair. They are fortifying a contender already standing near the top. The NBA thrives on rumor, but some stories carry a gravity that feels undeniable. Jarrett Allen to Boston is one of them. Whether it is tomorrow, next week, or at the deadline, the sense grows stronger with every passing day that this negotiation is not smoke without fire. For Celtics fans, hope has rarely felt this tangible. What lies ahead may not just be another chapter, but the beginning of an era defined by a towering presence in the paint and a team built to bend the league to its will. What if I told you that the Boston Celtics offseason has already been shaken by stories that, at first glance, look small but could end up changing the entire picture of the Eastern Conference? We are not talking about blockbuster trades or headlines plastered on ESPN, but subtle moves, performances, and even unexpected injuries that can swing the balance in ways no one predicted. And inside all of this chaos, Boston might be standing in the perfect position to strike when the moment comes. Let's start with a face that Celtics fans know all too well. Daniel Theis, a name that might have faded in the NBA spotlight, just dropped a performance in Europe that turned heads. In only 23 minutes of Eurobasket play, he scored 23 points, grabbed 6 rebounds, and did not miss a single shot. Perfect from the field, perfect from beyond the arc, a flawless exhibition of efficiency. But here is the twist. Theis is not on any roster right now. He's a free agent. The question writes itself, is this just nostalgia, or could Boston realistically look at him as a depth option if things break the wrong way in their frontcourt? He is 33 years old, he has 8 years of NBA experience, and while no one is expecting him to turn into a star overnight, the idea of plugging in a reliable veteran presence during a long season suddenly does not sound so far-fetched. A lot of fans may not realize how much value a locker room presence like his can hold when the playoffs arrive. But the real curiosity lies not in the past, but in the future. Because while Theis is proving he can still play, the spotlight is quietly shifting toward a giant who may soon force his way into the Celtics core. Namias Queta is showing flashes that simply cannot be ignored. 23 points and 18 rebounds in one game, then a 15-point performance against Turkey while going toe-to-toe with Alperen Sengun, a center expected to dominate the Western Conference for the next decade. Even in his rough outing against Nikola Jokic, the fact that Queta was put in that position is itself a sign. Boston never needed him to dominate Jokic in August. They just needed him to prove he belongs in that arena. And he did. What makes this storyline even more fascinating is timing. We are standing at the edge of September, which means training camp is right around the corner. Rosters are being finalized, conversations are being held behind closed doors, and the last open roster spot for the Celtics suddenly feels far more valuable than it did a month ago. Will they fill it with an experienced veteran like Theis, or will they fully commit to the experiment of letting Queta rise as a permanent rotation big? Every decision now carries weight because the East is starting to look vulnerable. Consider this. Cleveland, a team many analysts predicted to be at the very top of the conference, just lost Max Strus to a serious foot injury that requires surgery and keeps him out for months. On paper, Strus is a role player, but in reality, he was a vital connector in their offense, spacing the floor for Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Without him, Cleveland is thin and financially trapped under the second apron rules, unable to make easy fixes. That tiny crack may be all a team like Boston needs to push through. Look around further. The Knicks, loaded with names, still have no proven playoff consistency. Milwaukee's guard rotation is fragile. Philadelphia is once again living in uncertainty, and Miami is betting on pieces that have yet to prove they can deliver when the lights are brightest. Suddenly, the East looks like a maze with no clear exit, and the Celtics have the map in their hands if they dare to use it. This is the curiosity that makes this moment so electrifying. Could a forgotten veteran, a rising giant, and an injury hundreds of miles away combine into the chain reaction that reshapes the entire path to the finals? The question is not if Boston has the talent, we already know they do, but whether Brad Stevens and the front office are willing to turn these small openings into a decisive advantage. One thing is clear, the Celtics are quietly positioned better than most believe, and the months ahead might reveal just how powerful that position really is. Celtics front office has once again placed itself at the center of the NBA conversation, not because of what they lost, but because of what they might be holding in secret. Brad Stevens has been portrayed by many as a methodical builder, a man who rarely reveals his hand until the last possible moment. Yet the latest reports suggest that what he is crafting for the 2025 and 2026 season is not just a retool, it might be the foundation of something larger that extends deep into the future of this franchise. The whispers are that Boston is preparing not just for the present, but for a calculated leap when the conditions in the league shift again. And if you think this is only about managing the salary cap or moving a few role players, you might be missing the bigger picture entirely. What does it mean when reliable insiders reveal that while Anthony Simons could be moved, both Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser are essentially off the table? At first glance, it sounds like a simple decision, but dig deeper, and it feels like a coded message from the front office. Boston is protecting specific archetypes, keeping a playmaker who's already shown he can create 40-point nights and a wing shooter with one of the most efficient perimeter strokes in the league. That is not coincidence. That is the careful construction of a roster designed for spacing, speed, and unpredictable bursts of offense. And the fact that Stevens refuses to part with those two, while leaving Simons as a potential trade piece, suggests he is quietly mapping out how this team will survive without needing to chase desperate deals. The other layer that changes everything is ownership. The previous leadership was obsessed with staying below the first tax apron, guarding every dollar as if financial flexibility alone could win championships. But the new ownership group has made it clear that they are willing to stretch into uncomfortable territory. When reports surface that they are less concerned about the apron penalties than their predecessors, the signal is unmistakable. The Celtics are prepared to pay the price if it means keeping the roster position to strike. Think about the psychological effect that has around the league. Rivals who assumed Boston would be forced into cost-cutting moves suddenly face a front office that will not blink. That is leverage, and Stevens is using it. There is also the timing element. Brett Siegel's report that the Celtics are treating this season as a bridge year while targeting a full strength title push in 2026 and 2027 sounds almost like a concession, but in reality, it is a trap for those who underestimate. The Eastern Conference is not stable. Injuries and unexpected collapses happen every year, and Boston knows it. By keeping the right mix of guards and shooters, they allow themselves the chance to punch above expectations, even if Jason Tatum's recovery forces patience. Imagine a scenario where Pritchard and White catch fire in the spring. Hauser finds rhythm, and suddenly the Celtics are sitting in a conference finals without having accelerated their timeline. That is the kind of window that turns a cautious year into a breakthrough. The looming mystery of Jason Tatum changes the emotional temperature of everything. The organization will not confirm whether he can return late in the season, and that uncertainty is itself a weapon. Opponents cannot plan fully if they know there is even a slight chance Boston's superstar might appear at the critical moment. Bringing him back early could risk health, but waiting until the conditions are perfect could mean unleashing him into a playoff bracket that is already cracked open. Stevens has built rosters around misdirection before, and the possibility of Tatum as a late-season shock is perhaps his boldest card. For fans wondering whether these moves mean the Celtics are stepping back, the reality is the opposite. They are not selling off the future. They are buying time until the league breaks in their favor. Protecting Pritchard and Hauser means valuing chemistry, continuity, and specific roles that can expand as the stars return. Simons as the potential trade chip means optionality, the freedom to react if the right opportunity emerges before the deadline. And the financial posture of ownership means Boston will not be bullied by the new CBA penalties that have already crippled other contenders. The real story is not about who left or who might be moved. The real story is that Boston is quietly positioning itself to strike when no one is expecting it. The rest of the NBA can speculate about tax aprons and depth charts, but inside the walls of the Celtics front office, there is a belief that this roster has just enough unpredictability to survive the present and explode when the timing is right. The plan is not obvious, and that is exactly why it could succeed.